everybody. It's Rick. I'm back. It's March the 16th, 2019. If you need to reach me, my email is rick0327 at me.com. And you're going to use that email because you're interested in receiving my paperwork. Okay? Not to shoot the breeze. No, I got too many emails, guys. I got a lot of people emailing me, and I don't want to be rude, okay? But I cannot get to everybody, okay? It's too much. All right, it burns me out. That's why I had to take a few weeks off. I was just dealing with email aspect of what I do. So I took a break from making a couple of videos because whenever I make videos, I get inundated with emails. And when I get inundated with emails, it's, everybody's story, which is depressing, all right? It's and the kind of person that I am, I would like to help every single one of you, but it's not possible, okay? It's what we're dealing with here is an uphill battle. We're dealing with criminals, blatant criminals. It's organized, okay? They all look out for each other. You go and try and file a lawsuit in federal court, and the federal judges protect the state judges, and they protect the lawyers, okay? With that bullshit Rooker-Feldman doctrine bullshit, which is doesn't matter what you write in your complaint, by the way. They have a standard response that federal court is not an appellate level court. So what they're saying is you're bringing you're a state court loser, and now you go in the federal court and you want to use them as an appellate court, which is not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're filing a claim against a state judge or one of these fake judges, these surrogate judges, that they're violating your rights. And they ignore the evidence, they ignore the facts, and what they do is they issue a summation of what's going on just to fill up some paper, and then they'll cite the Rooker-Feldman doctrine, and then be on your way, okay? And that's what they do. That's what they do with me, all right? But here's something you got to understand. All judges and all fake judges, they all have insurance. And they all have bonds. Now, why do you think that is? Because they are expected to violate the Constitution. That's what they're there for. That oath of office, when they raise their right hand, is all semantics, because not a single one of them takes their oath seriously. And they don't care who they step all over, okay? So that's the reason why you have to arm yourself with as much knowledge as possible. Okay? Your rights are inalienable. Your constitutional rights under the Bill of Rights in the state court and in the United States Constitution, the Constitution for the United States of America. That's the right way of saying it. Those rights, they're not negotiable. Okay? They're not negotiable. So you have to know your rights, and then you're going to have to stand firm in the court. I get so many emails from people, and what happens is you guys go in there, you're afraid, and then they step all over you. And I know, listen, it's happened to me, but I will tell you this, the people that's had success in court that I've dealt with all have one thing in common. They all went into court confidently, and they all knew the law, and they knew their rights. And what happens is they're afraid of you. That's what happened with me. They became afraid of me. Also, I at the time, it was, I was broke. I mean, it was, I had to use $400 to file in federal court. And I needed that money, but it was important that I did it. And again, I didn't prevail because they stonewalled me. Okay, if I was to do it again, I'd do it a little differently. I also used that common law stuff, which was not, that was kind of stupid on my part. Okay, you gotta speak in their language. Just trust me on this. Okay, you don't want them profiling you. Whenever you start using certain phrases, they profile you. They consider you a nut, and they're gonna get rid of you. I'm just telling you. Okay, you're better off, trying to use, court language. Try to comply with the rules of the court as best you can. Okay, because when I did that, that's when I got success. When I started using their words, I started using their rules, I started using their laws. And then because I did file in federal court, when I went back to the state court, to the family court, that's when they started treating me different. I filed a writ of quo warranto. I got a response within 5 days. I went to court. That's the 4 parts in my videos from 3 years ago. And the judge vacated on claiming default because he wasn't. I got a couple of idiots out there like, well, of course a default. A judge is not going to vacate something jurisdictionally. You want to know why? I'm going to show you why in these slides. When a judge acts without jurisdiction, or anybody acts without jurisdiction, they could be sued. You understand? So I demanded him to provide me with jurisdiction, and he couldn't, but also I didn't want him getting up and walking out. I took whatever I could get that day. And he issued a stay, and from that day on, they stopped stealing my money. You take what you can get, guys. I'm just telling you. Because when you got to walk that tightrope, you got to be firm, but you got to be polite. Because then they'll get up and walk out. It's called abandoning ship. They'll abandon ship, and then you're standing there. So you got to be firm, but you got to be respectful at the same time. Just be polite and cite what you have to cite. All right, so what we're looking at here is fraud on the court by an officer of the court and disqualification of judges, state and federal. All right. Who is an officer of the court? A judge is an officer of the court as well as all attorneys. A state judge is a state judicial officer paid by the state to act impartially and lawfully. A federal judge is a federal judicial officer paid by the federal government to act impartially and lawfully. State and federal attorneys fall into the same general category and must meet the same requirements. A judge is not the court. Okay, and that's the case law there. All right. If some of you are having problems reading these slides, I'm doing the best I can. Freeze the screen and blow it up if you can. Okay? And just read the slide and pay attention to the case laws. Okay, what is fraud on the court? Whenever any officer of the court commits fraud during a proceeding in the court, he or she is engaged in fraud upon the court. Bullock versus the United States. The court stated fraud upon the court is fraud which is directed to the judicial machinery itself and is not fraud between the parties or fraudulent documents, false statements, or perjury. It is where the court or member is corrupted or influenced is attempted, or where the judge has not performed his judicial function. Okay, as soon as a judge starts acting independent of they start acting outside the Constitution, they are acting in their private capacity. We'll get to that later on. Thus, where the impartial functions of the court have been directly, in other words, they're not acting impartial anymore. So whenever a judge is acting outside the Constitution, they're no longer impartial. And they're supposed to be impartial. Okay? Fraud upon the court has been defined by the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals to embrace that species of fraud which does or attempts to defile the court itself, or is fraud perpetrated by officers of the court so that the judicial machinery cannot perform in the usual manner its impartial task of judging cases that are presented for adjudication. Okay, there's the case law. It's also in Moore's federal practice. Okay, I mean, all of you are being victimized by fraud upon the court. Okay, and you know, fraud is a crime. Fraud is not, it's a crime. It's not. There's no two ways about it. It's a crime. All right. So when you have somebody acting, they're warring against the Constitution. They're committing treason. Okay. Fraud upon the court makes void the orders and judgments of that court. It is also clear and well settled Illinois law that any attempt to commit fraud upon the court vitiates the entire proceeding. The people of the state of Illinois versus Fred E. Sterling, that's the case law. So let's look that up. All right. I'm not going to read all of it. Okay. I'm going to let you look at all of it at this point. All right. We got here. Let me highlight these. There you go. What I'm going to let you guys do is I'm going to look at every slide. Okay. It's good to notice. All right. It's also good to, you could file a notice to the court notifying whoever, the judge or the surrogate judge. You can notice a motion, trespass upon rights, or fraud upon the court, citing what the judge or fake judge did to you and citing some case law that go, to back up what you're claiming. Okay, that's what I always do. Okay, what causes disqualification of judges? Federal law requires the automatic disqualification of a federal judge under certain circumstances. Well, we're not dealing with federal judges. We're dealing with state judges right now. Okay. Courts have repeatedly held that positive proof of the partiality of a judge is not a requirement, only the appearance of partiality. So they have to appear partial. Oh, I mean, in other words, excuse me, only the appearance of partiality. What it does is negate it disqualifies the case. So if a judge appears to be partial, which we already know they are because of the cooperative agreements, right? So the cooperative agreements between the child support agency and the judge or the surrogate judge is proof they're not impartial. They're partial. So you can use that as well. Okay. Recusal. Judge has a legal duty to disqualify himself, even if there is no motion asking for his disqualification. Good luck with that. Judges do not have discretion to disqualify themselves. By law, they are bound to follow the law. That's true. Should a judge disqualify himself as required by law, then the judge is given another example of his appearance of partiality, which possibly further disqualifies the judge. Should another judge not accept disqualification of the judge, then the second judge has evidenced an appearance of partiality. All right, read these and throw it at them. You're committing fraud upon the court. You're violating my rights. You're warring against the Constitution. That's treason. Treason is crime. See, the Supreme Court has also held that if a judge wars against the Constitution, or if he acts without jurisdiction, he has engaged in treason to the Constitution. If a judge acts after he has been automatically disqualified by law, see what happens is when they violate the Constitution, they're disqualified by law. So you could say at such and such a time, the judge did this, and from that point forward, they're disqualified. Then he's acting without jurisdiction. When a judge is acting in violation of the Constitution, they're acting without jurisdiction, and then they could be sued. That's why they have the insurance. Okay? And you know what? You might want to think about filing in federal court. A lot of you are in financial straits, so you should be able to get the filing fee waived. Okay? Look into it. Courts have repeatedly ruled that judges have no immunity for their criminal acts. Since both treason and the interference with interstate commerce are considered criminal acts, no judge has immunity. That's one of the first things they try and claim. All judges are required to have insurance because they are expected to war against the Constitution. By citing these case laws and filing trespass upon rights in federal courts should eliminate the dreaded Rooker-Feldman doctrine that is used to protect judges from being sued in federal court. Fraud upon the court is evidence the proceedings are void. Remember, I told you they're disqualified at that point. All right. So if then the proceedings are fraudulent, that means they don't exist anymore. Then they can't use that Rooker-Feldman doctrine nonsense. All right. So hopefully this helps some of you guys out. All right. Arm you with some more information when you go in there. Okay. They are afraid of people who have knowledge. They are afraid of people who act confident. Okay. You might also, if you have a problem with, the bailiff, the deputy, court officer in the court, you should also, if they're going to harass you, you need to inform them that you're going to sue them as well. Okay? Because they're not part of that club. Okay? So, they're not a lawyer and they're not a judge. They're not in that club. So they could be sued. I had to do that. I had to notify the court officers. I dropped off an envelope and I notified the supervisor that what happened is he was assigned to follow me around. I told him he's harassing me. And then I also told him that he's been present for all of the crimes committed against me. And he did nothing. Therefore, I have grounds to sue him. Well, let me tell you something. He never bothered me again. Okay? I told him, I go, don't worry, I'm not gonna sue you. I just had to let you know what you've been doing to me is wrong. See, law enforcement has a duty to protect you. Okay? Which I don't know how they get away with it, but you know what? A lot of times they use them to scare you. All right? And you just let them know that you're going to sue them. But again, you got to walk that tightrope. I don't want any of you guys getting arrested either. You just try to be firm and knowledgeable. Okay? Know your rights. Know the Constitution. Okay? Know that you're entitled to a trial. You got a trial by jury. Notify them. That way they cannot claim they weren't told. Okay? All right, so what are we at? 19 minutes, 20, 28, 29, 30. All right, so, I apologize for not making a video. I had some stuff going on my end. All right, took care of it. Nothing serious, just dealing with some personal issues, okay? But nothing serious. Nothing, my life wasn't in jeopardy or anything like that. Just something I had to take care of. But I'm back. All right, so hope to hear from you guys. Those of you going to court, good luck. Be firm. All right, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.